Welcome back, Guardians. In today's report, we will begin to investigate the recent rumors surrounding the Fallen's disappearance on not just Earth and the Cosmodrome, but across the entire solar system. A massive withdrawal centered around unknown or only speculative reasons, but we do have some inconsistent reports on who may be behind this new turn of events. But to explain the situation properly and with the most information, we should first examine the 100-year siege the Fallen have inflicted upon humanity. Before we begin, in the past I provided another report on the Fallen that broke down the various houses, the Fallen hierarchy, and their initial motivations. If you'd like more information before we continue, I recommend watching that report. The Fallen's aggressions against humanity are not recent. They extend from the very beginning of the collapse, just at the end of our Golden Age. They were the first recorded alien aggressors that massed against us just before the Battle of Six Fronts. The Crusade of Raziel Azir, the legendary protector turned traitor, depicted a tale providing for refugees and wanderers seeking sanctuary in the last city against the first Fallen incursions. There was the event of Six Fronts, where the now vanished heroes, Saint 14 and Osiris, protected the city against the massive horde from the House of Devils. Six Fronts is a famous memento to the Titan orders. They wear that pride honestly and properly. 4 orders of Titans would hold the walls of the last city against 6 different enemy advancing positions, hence the name Six Fronts. That battle would also see the warlock lost to madness Osiris rise to the title of Vanguard Commander. Six Fronts would be the first major military defeat for the House of Devils, and they would not rise again to threaten the city without support until the recent Siva crisis. The Battle of Twilight Gap, perhaps the most defining moment in the continued sovereignty of the last city, was not won by Guardians, but our silent allies. What we call Twilight Gap on Earth, the Reef, the asteroid belt beyond Mars, calls these events the Reef Wars, which they fought against the uncountable House of Wolves. During Twilight Gap, the House of Wolves had called to unite all of the fallen houses, the kings, devils, and exiles, and those unnamed, under their banner, under the ideal they call the Kell of Kells, which roughly translated is King of Kings. Their sole Kell to command the destruction of the city was Skolas the Rabid. The Reef Wars was a series of conflicts that effectively changed the outcome of the Battle of Twilight Gap for Guardians on Earth and established the Reef Awoken under Morozov as one of the dominant powers in the solar system. It should also be noted, various reports indicate Morozov having direct dealings with the so-called Nine that effectively allowed her to bargain more efficiently with these unseen powers. However, the Reef Awoken's victory was not a product of their military stratagem, but careful positioning of their power during a civil war inside the House of Wolves. Now, it's highly debatable to this day that if Viriak's original House of Wolves Kell was not killed during one of the first skirmishes with the Reef's fleet, the House of Wolves would have remained unified long enough to crush the Reef's resistance and arrive to reinforce the other fallen houses already sieging the last city on Earth. Viriak's death is also a subject for direct analysis and some controversy. It's stated in various Reef military reports that no superweapon or weapons that fit that designation were used against the Fallen, but eyewitnesses' accounts directly contradict these claims. In the Tower, we certainly shouldn't scrutinize our new allies too harshly. Our alliance with the Reef is fickle at best. But if they have a superweapon called Harbingers, and it's been used once, what stops such usage again? A weapon, even if its ire is focused on another target, is still a weapon. The wielder consciously decides its next target. The end of the House of Wolves came with the death of Viriax in an event called the Scatter. This is when Morozov tactfully outwitted and outpositioned Viriax's fleet at Cirrus, a dwarf planet in the Reef, and unleashed her Harbingers against the Wolf fleet. Now, it's estimated that half of the wolf fleet were annihilated by the fallout of these superweapons, and with Viriax to fall or unable to function, the House of Wolves leadership splinters into 3 factions, leading to a civil war of the wolves in the Reap, and none of those forces being able to reach the other houses during the Battle of Twilight Gap. Eventually, it would lead to the capture of Skolas, who proclaimed himself Kell of Kells in his more recent escape, where he planned to use Vex technology to bring the entire House of Wolves through time in the past to our present. Fortunately, Skolas' plan for another gap, an end to humanity, was thoroughly thwarted by Guardians, and our relationship with the Reef greatly strengthened. After the Taken War against Oryx, the House of Devils would again rise to challenge the last city's claim of sovereignty, but this time under new leadership and backed by corrupted Golden Age technology. Siva, a nanotechnology superconstructor. It had the ability to rebuild cities, utility networks, and re-establish livable metropolises. Siva was a project originally developed at Clovis Bray to expand and support humanity's drive during the Golden Age. When the fallen House of Devils under Axis found the dormant Siva control node in the Cosmodrome, he had begun transfusing fallen and Siva technology to produce perfected soldiers. Ultimately, Axis and Siva would be defeated by the new Iron Lords, which were Guardians who reforged the Order under Lord Saladin in ceremony and rite. But that leaves us with our current point in the present, and the reports are difficult to understand or even explain. From the first time in what seems to be an eternity, the Fallen have withdrew. Their eternal siege on the city, its human refugees, and their crusade on Guardians has ended. The Elixni's 100-year war has finally ended in their thorough but inevitable defeat. But recent change has been a reality break. Typically, when forces retreat, they keep some varying form of organization, and they certainly keep their weapons and armor that symbolize who and what they are. But with these new reports, the Fallen had removed their armor and cloth, pulled their battle and ceremonial banners, and begun casting them into massive fires. They have abandoned the Cosmodrome, Venus, and our moon. Some indicate this mass withdrawal is due to the elimination of various Fallen leadership. So much of the upper hierarchy of these houses has been killed that the literal head of the snake has been removed. But we also know that the Fallen House of Exiles operates without any upper leadership, so this theory is somewhat contradictory. A second theory states that the Fallen are preparing for another Twilight Gap, and that the mass removal of ground forces and strategic positions to restructure their chain of supplies and command is logical. But with Skolas gone, Varix rebuilding the House of Judgment, and the House of Devils utterly trounced, it seems unlikely, however naive this may be, that the Fallen can again properly organize themselves to threaten the now recovering city. There is another rumor, one shrouded, that comes from the Reef. Whispers and hushed conversations about the Prince, Uldren, meeting with the House of Kings. The only house to not directly operate in ground conflicts or seemingly uninterested in joining the other houses in their attacks on the city has been the House of Kings. We unfortunately know very little about them, and it's due to their secluded nature. But it's been suggested in the past by various analysis that the House of Kings manipulates the other houses, operating as puppet masters. If Uldren did meet with the Kell from the House of Kings, what is his motivation? Why meet with an enemy of your allies in the tower? Is Uldren still loyal to Guardians and their cause? The questions we can ask now are more rooted in distrust and confusion. To formulate a better position, we need more information. As a few reports on logistical positions and rumors about a self-exiled prince rarely translate into our predictions. But for now, take heed in the time you have spent removing the threats against the city. Your actions as Guardians has saved uncountable lives today and a million new ones tomorrow. But if the Fallen are not gone, can we not hope for a better outcome? a more unified future. It would take years, perhaps even centuries, for humanity to heal from the wounds the Fallen have caused. But our war against the darkness should allow us to remain open to a change, one in which the Fallen see their great machine for what we see in our Traveler, a soft peace. It's hopeful, and perhaps even naive, to think of this possibility, but the history of the Elixni is not so different from our own. The old Earth Japanese saying fits our narrative well. The Kitsuki bowl is one of the most beautiful bowls, but if it is broken and it is melded with gold, it is even more beautiful. The Fallen have that chance. We have that chance, and it is perhaps one we can take together. But for now, keep your chins up and walk tall, Guardians.